Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leo Alves podcast. And in today's podcast episode, I have a repeat guest with me on. It's been a while. The last time we had, or the podcast episode we did last time was back in 2023, and I think it was 2023, maybe 2022, and I thought, you know what, it's been enough time now. Let's invite Patrick DiBello back. So I messaged him, and here we are. So I'm very excited to get in. And before I get into like the subject for what I really wanted to speak about today, or like the various subjects, I thought maybe we can do a quick introduction to Patrick and then go from there.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back. I feel like a lot has happened since we last spoke. I think we had a really good talk last time that I'm sure people enjoyed, but a lot has gone on with me and my training and my education. So it's good to be back and catch up again. So, a little bit about me, real quick. I'm from upstate New York. Um, I've been in the fitness industry for almost 15 years now. I used to own my own gym or training center, if you will, where I did a lot of personal training and a lot of specialty group classes like handstands, partner acrobatics, and I taught calisthenics strength training classes. Did that for a good 10 to 12 years. And then over the past, I'd say 4 or 5 years, I transitioned to being a full time online coach because having overhead at owning a gym is very difficult to actually make a living now that I'm married and my wife and I like to travel and do fun things and have an active lifestyle. It's really tough to have $3,000 in overhead just to break even when you own a gym, let alone to actually make a profit. So I went fully online. It's been beautiful. I can reach more people. I can help more people. And it's a better way for me to make a living doing what I love without all that overhead. So my background is in calisthenics, some strength training, yoga styles, partner acrobatics, handstands, uh, and now I've transitioned into hybrid training. So that's where my background comes into play. I love running. I love lifting heavy. I love calisthenics and just moving my body in different ways and doing skills like handstands. And that's somewhat me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lovely, a nice intro. Um, so yeah, a lot of experience there, a lot going on. I thought for today's podcast episode, what we could do is, and I know you're not really using Threads now because I was like stalking your Threads profile before this, but I thought, you know what, I would read out loud a few posts that you shared, and then maybe we can, or you can, mostly like we're here because it's your time today, and but we can like dive into them in a bit more depth and just discuss them because I thought they were like quite good posts. And yeah, that's what we'll go for. So in no particular order, well, kind of it's more from like most recent to latest as I was going through it in order. But yeah, let's go through the first one. So uh Patrick's posts in no particular order. What's one piece of advice you would give a younger generation? I'll go first. Do not burn bridges. You never know who knows who or who can pull strings for you or against you. Maintaining good relationships or at least avoiding serious fallouts can go a long way. Sounds like a personal experience happened, something like happened personally there.
Yeah, for sure. And I do like that you brought this up because, my intro, I did focus on fitness and my career and whatnot, but I am just a regular person like everybody else. And, I think when someone says, like, hey, what do you do? Our initial response is like to tell them what our job is, right? But I also, I'm a husband, I have dogs, I have hobbies. So I am a person outside of what I do for a living. And I know we all are. So I do have some personal experience with burning bridges and having bridges burned. And to be completely honest, that's not necessarily the reason. The negative side of that isn't necessarily the reason that I made that post. Like, I'll be candid. Yeah, in my younger years and when I was 20, I would have a disagreement with somebody or a falling out with somebody, and I really wouldn't have any issue burning that bridge. But that's really not why I made that post. I made that post because of experiences that I've had where maybe there was a potential for a bridge to be burned, like more recently, even the past 5 years or sooner, to where I didn't burn that bridge consciously just because it's okay to have a disagreement with somebody or it's okay to not see eye to eye with somebody. In the grand scheme of things, it's probably not that big of a deal. And then as of late, I've like experienced something and I've looked back and like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't burn that bridge. Um, Especially someone, if you live in a small town, you never know who knows who, and you never know where like you could get a referral for your business if you're somebody that offers a service, like you live in a small town, people know each other and people talk. So when you burn a bridge for something that in the grand scheme of things isn't that big of a deal, you think that you're just getting away from a certain situation, but you could be hurting yourself in the long run.
Yeah, I brought that post up because I could relate to it as well. I felt like this resonates, and I thought, yeah, it's a good point because, like you said, in the grand scheme of things, when you really like take a step back and think about just like life overall, it does it really need to be done? Probably not. And I don't know, fast forward 1 or 2 years, it has a funny way of just things working out, sometimes even better. Um, was there anything you wanted to add before I go on to the next one?
No, just I mean, yeah, I guess real quick that like in those moments that I do, I guess you could say burn a bridge, or at least in order to not burn a bridge, I have to say to myself, like, stop taking yourself so seriously. Like what is worth at this age? I'm gonna be 40 in 3 months. At this age, what is worth burning a bridge for? Like, stop taking yourself so seriously. I have good relationships overall as a whole in my 30s and moving into my 40s. It's not like in your 20s when, friends are deceiving you and you have bad relationships with girls that you're dating. Like, I'm married with a beautiful wife and in a good relationship, and I have positive people and friends around me, my colleagues and people in the fitness space. We have good relationships. Like, if you don't agree with somebody or you don't see eye to eye with somebody, don't take yourself so seriously that you have to completely remove that person from your life or burn a bridge. It's literally silly.
What's a bit of advice or two as someone who is in their late 30s going into their 40s that you have for someone in their late 20s going into their 30s? And I know I've put you on the spot here a bit.
Now you're good. My advice is you're just getting started. Just just chill. Like when I was that age in my 20s, I'd have people in my 30s being like, "Oh, wait till you're in your 30s and 40s. It's not going to be that way. You're not going to have as much energy. You're not going to be as strong." And it's like, yo, if I could go back and have that conversation and show that person who I am now, like being in your 30s and 40s is so much better than being in your 20s. Like, you're smarter, you are more mature. Even if you are mid 20s or late 20s and you think you're mature, you're going to be smarter and more mature. Like, I'm sorry, it's way better being in your 30s and 40s. Like, not to go like off topic, but
No, that's fine. We can go anywhere.
like sex is better when you're in your 30s and 40s than when you're a kid and you think like all the right moves and all the right stuff. Like, relationships are better, your body is in better shape and better conditioning, your communication skills are better, you're probably better off financially. Like, life is just better as you get older, and I truly believe that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just thought I'd ask because you mentioned you were nearly turning 40 and then I'm 30 this year, so I was just it was more from
Oh, I didn't realize you're such a young gun.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm turning 30 in September, so I thought I'd ask just out of curiosity.
No, I like that. I like that question. That's good conversation. Like, dang, I got a decade on you.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, right. Um, yeah, let's go to the next. Was there anything else you wanted to
No,
add
that's
before?
it. No, let's get it.
Okay,
That's it.
so next post. One thing I noticed when seeing people work out at the gym is that most people are stronger than they think they are. Obviously, I don't know what their goals are, but a lot of people could lift heavier than they do, especially women. Oftentimes, I see a woman doing rows or deadlifts and the weight is too light. They throw it around like nothing. I'm just talking out loud here because I won't just walk up to someone and give unsolicited advice unless it's on social media, of course.
Bro, did you see the comments on that post? I got
I didn't.
crucified.
I didn't.
Um,
But I agree.
Same. And I got attacked because I was seemingly people were saying that I was like attacking women.
Oh, it's so
And
stupid. You're
I,
right. It is a fact that from throughout my career, I would say this isn't always the case. It's not a hard rule, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's just because it's so stupid, is that it's a fact. Based on many personal trainers I speak to and my own experience, many ladies lift less they underestimate how strong they are.
of course,
Many men, on the other hand, do I would say you get a
of
mix, but you
course,
get overestimate how strong they are. So
more
it works
ego
both
lifting
ways.
from men.
It's not a fucking attack to anyone. And I think people who just say that, they're stupid. They don't know. They just want to be. They want to choose to feel upset and insulted. But sorry to interrupt you.
Of
Carry
course.
on.
No, you're good. If anything, I meant that as a compliment to women that you are literally stronger than you could possibly imagine. And it's just an observation. Like I said, I don't know what their goals are, but if I had to guess, there's a good chance that if you're in there lifting weights, one of your main goals is to get stronger, right? Like, I don't know if you have a goal to like tone up or lose body fat or whatever type of semantics you want to use to say get healthier. But if you're lifting weights, you probably want to get stronger. And if I'm watching you single arm dumbbell row a 12-pound dumbbell and you're throwing it around like it's a water bottle, you can probably lift heavier. If you're deadlifting, like, I mean, deadlifting, if you're doing a kettlebell deadlift with a 30-pound kettlebell and you're almost like throwing it through the ceiling because it's so light, you can lift heavier. And yeah, most men typically are more likely, not even most men are more likely to be ego lifting and lifting too heavy. And women are more likely to be lifting too light because historically, women have been drawn to uh like like Zumba classes or like lightweight aerobic classes where they're always keeping their heart rate up and they're lifting light weights for high reps. Like they're almost pre-programmed to think that that's the way to get, at least in the 90s, what was called this like optimal body of just being super skinny. Like if you watch movies from the 90s, the women are super skinny, and the fitness trends were these like lightweight aerobic activities where you're always keeping your heart rate up by doing jumping jacks during your rest period, and having a 2-pound dumbbell in your hand while you're doing jumping jacks and all this stuff. So they're almost pre-programmed to do these light weights, higher intensity type things. So when they go to slow down and actually lift weights in the gym to get stronger, they resort back to that lifting light. And I'm never, like I said, going to walk up to somebody and give unsolicited advice, but it just gets the wheels turning in my brain. And sometimes I try to use real life experiences to come up with content ideas. And that was one of the things that sparked it, because I used to train people in person all the time, 7 days a week. And now I only see two guys 2 to 3 times a week. So that's only 5 hours of my week that I see people. And I've been training them for 8 years. So they don't have the questions that they used to have that I'm helping them on. Like they've been training with me for 8 years. I'm not going to say they know everything, but it's not like I'm sitting there like keeping their chest up and like spotting them and teaching them about form or teaching them about things, because I did that 7 years ago. So I use the gym and my experiences and the things I view as ideas for content. And that's just one of the things I see time and time again, just like I see all the time people walking on the treadmill or doing the Stairmaster just to burn calories. And I don't know it for a fact, but I know that it's true. A lot of people who are doing cardio at the gym are doing it to burn calories, not to improve their cardio or get better at a specific modality. If you see me on a treadmill, it's because I'm training. I'm running to get better at running. If you see me on a bike, I'm training to improve my cardiovascular base. I'm training to improve the control of my heart rate and my heart rate recovery. I'm not just doing it as a way to shut off my brain and burn extra calories.
Yeah, yeah, well said. That's something I frequently try and get across as well, whether it's in a YouTube video or a Threads post or even my book. That's one thing I just think you really want to not do is just be doing cardio for the sake of burning calories. Like it's not gonna do much. Was there anything else you wanted to add before I go on to the third point?
No, that's it.
Today, I am officially 2 years marijuana free. As someone who smokes multiple times a day, every day, for over 20 years, I feel so much better than I ever have. I'm no longer dependent on a drug that did nothing for me. Being sober has improved my life and the lives of the people around me. I am without a doubt a better person now that I don't get high all the time. If you're thinking about making a big change in your life, I believe in you. If I can do it, so can you.
You want me to expand on that, huh?
Yeah, I
Do you
thought
have a
that would be
specific
quite.
question on that? No, I
Not
love
really
the I
like
love it, but
just like what was maybe the initial thought process as to why you decided to start that, and we can go from there.
okay. So I smoked pot for the majority of my life after 16 years old. Um, I smoked pot often and I kind of smoked a lot at different points of my life. And a lot of my lifestyle choices allowed me to do that, right? Like I've worked for myself for the past 15 years. I never had to pass a drug test to get a job. I was able to, work out in my garage and smoke a bowl before my training session. So I was able to basically do it whenever I wanted to with no real repercussions. So I never thought that it was ever really holding me back. Um, but something hit me to where, well, partly a lot of my wife's influence, even though she loved me for who I was and never specifically came out and said, and this was even before we were married, like, I don't want you smoking pot. She would mention certain things that would get me thinking that I was dependent on it because my view was always, I'm not addicted to it. And she opened my eyes to the fact that just because I'm not addicted to it, just because I don't necessarily have withdrawals from it when I don't do it, doesn't mean that I'm not dependent on it. And so I would realize that if we were to go out to dinner, I would be like, hang on, like before we walked out the door, I'd say, hang on, let me go into my office and smoke a bowl. Before I would go into the gym to work out, I'd say, hang on, let me smoke a bowl. Um, Before I did almost anything, I would just have to go and smoke. And it hit me to where I was like, well, I can argue till I'm blue in the face that I'm not addicted, but I'm clearly dependent on this. If I have to do it before I eat, before I sleep, before I go to a party, before I go to the gym, I'm clearly dependent on this. So that was the first trigger to be like, maybe I should not do this. And I'll never forget my wife was in our garage gym working out, and I went out there and I was like, I'm going to quit smoking pot cold turkey. And she was like, I don't know if you can do that because you smoke quite a bit. It might not be the best approach for you. And I was like, no, I can do it. And then it didn't work out to my advantage. So then I started to try and like wean myself off it a little bit. And I had some success, but I wasn't able to completely pull the plug. And then end of 2023, I would say. Nope, end of 2022. I started to really think about like what my fitness goals were and what my life goals were. And two things struck me. Number one, all of the people who I look up to and admire in life and success, however you deem success, right? We all have our different definitions of success. But to me, success was people that have a good career, a good marriage. They have investments that are giving them passive income. They have a good family life and they have positive values. That's what I deem as success. Um, all those people that I knew that I looked up to, none of them smoked pot and none of them smoked pot on a regular basis all day from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, like I was at the time. Like, unless they're a rapper, like the only people that do that are people like Snoop Dogg and like Rick Ross, people that I don't look up to. They're rappers. They have that lifestyle and that disposable income to where they can just smoke pot all day. So I realized that if I wanted to, somewhat live a lifestyle that replicated the people who I look up to, I had to make a change. On top of that, when I was evaluating my goals, I realized that I wanted to get more into like endurance training and I wanted to shift away from things that are, you could call like a skill or even what I now call party tricks, like handstands. Because I got really good at handstands, and one of my goals was to be able to do a one arm handstand. And I was like, well, what value would being able to do a one arm handstand actually give me? And I was like, it's not making me healthier. Like once I get through that past that threshold, it doesn't mean I'm healthier, but what goals in fitness would actually make me a healthier person, improve my life now, and give me more longevity? And I realized, like, oh, improving my cardio, maybe like becoming a better runner. And that would also help me in my Spartan races because I was like, you know what? Like, I have a goal to like place top 10 in the Spartan race. Being able to do a one arm handstand is going to help me get there, but becoming a better runner will. So I decided to hire a running coach. So I reached out to Alex Viata and I ended up hiring him as my basically my hybrid coach, which was running and strength training. And it hit me to where I was like, I can't spend like my hard earned money on a coach and take my training seriously and run 4 times a week if I'm then going to just keep smoking pot and like inhaling smoke in my lungs and making my running counterproductive by being a smoker. So I ended up saying, okay, I'm going to hire Alex and I'm going to go cold turkey smoking pot. And that's what I did. So that was the final straw to where I was like, you know what? I'm going to hire a running coach. I'm going to take my heart health seriously. I'm going to take my cardio seriously. And in order to do that, I can't be smoking pot. So long winded, long story of those are the things that made me finally, pull the plug on being what I would call a functional pothead and somebody who was proud to be a functional pothead. And I've realized, amongst the things that you mentioned about being a better person, I'm a better husband, I'm a better friend. Being sober is the actual high. Like being sober is a better high than being high from a substance. And I truly believe that.
That's a pretty powerful quote. I was gonna say, with the amount that it sounds like he used to smoke, he must be saving a lot more money as well.
Absolutely. To be honest, I was able to buy an investment property. And so now I have a rental property. There's no way I would have been able to do that, spending the amount of money that I was spending on pot. So that's one of the things I don't really talk about when I make those statements online, trying to encourage people to, quit something difficult if they're trying to. But yeah, I definitely saved a lot of money.
Yeah, yes, that's pretty cool to hear. I have smoked weed. Um, I make it sound like I tried it once. Now, I used to smoke a lot of weed, probably between like the ages of 18 to 23, I would say. After that, and I wouldn't, it was never a thing I would do throughout the day. It was always like nighttime hits, I'm gonna smoke maybe 5 out of 7 days a week. And that would just be my way to like one of the last thing I would do. And then I couldn't ever like really just have like just like smoke throughout the day. Otherwise, it would just be a bit odd for me. Um, and then I moved to Japan, big serious drug laws in a lot of Asian
Mm.
countries. Um, and then I was just like, I don't, it's not a good idea if I'm smoking weed while I'm in Japan. So I did have a hard stop, and I never really went back to it. I would say I probably smoke like once a year now, and it's probably just because I'm with a friend or something. So yeah, just stopped as well, pretty much. Yeah, I would say it's being sober is the high, as you put it, and I definitely would agree because I look back because actually, funnily enough, and the reason why I mention this is because I haven't smoked. I think the last time I smoked was probably about a year ago now. And
Nice.
that was the first time, probably a year before that. And it was just a friend of mine. He was chilling and he was like, he was smoking. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm like a anti it, but I remember just sitting there and I was like high and I was just thinking, how the fuck did I used to do this every single night? Like, this is wild. And yeah, and I was like, yeah, I don't even know if this is something that even appeals to me now. Um,
I
so
would freak out if I smoked again. I know for
I
a fact I would
Oh,
freak out.
really? Because
Oh yeah.
it was just an interesting experience to sit there and yeah, and just be high because after just so long of not doing it and then doing it again, um, off of my own accord, of course, like, but yeah, I was just like, yeah, fucking hell, this is interesting that people are literally like living their life like this.
Yeah, and I agree. And kind of it's on the same topic, but a little bit off subject as far as like friends go, like smoking pot around you. When I quit drinking probably 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, a lot of my relationships were affected because my friends all drank and drink. And so like they knew I wasn't going to drink. So I didn't get invited to bars and things like that. So I saw my friends a lot less and less. But my friends that smoked pot, like my really good friends, over the past 3 years, haven't like stopped being my friends because I don't smoke pot. And I used to get so much more peer pressure to drink when I stopped drinking than I ever have to smoke when I stopped smoking. Like I even had a friend, my best friend, I picked him up one time to give him a ride. His wife had his car, and I knew he wanted to smoke. And I said, "You can smoke in my car. Like, I'm fine." And he was like, "Oh, no." He's like, "You're still like a year and a half into not smoking." He's like, "I'm not going to smoke around you." He's like, "That's not how I want to be supportive of you." And it was just like just kind of like a funny, eye opening experience. That I was like, man, I used to get so much peer pressure to drink because drinking is so popularized and it's so cool to drink and get drunk. But I don't get any peer pressure to smoke pot. And I don't have anything against people that want to continue to smoke, even though I think the benefits of not smoking far outweigh the benefits of any type of medicinal properties people want to say pot has. But it was just so nice that like when I stopped smoking pot, I was able to still maintain my friendships and not get peer pressured to actually like break my streak of not smoking, because now I am 27 months sober and I don't see myself really ever smoking again.
Interesting. Why do you think that the smokers applied a lot less peer pressure than the drinkers?
I don't know. I have absolutely no clue. I think now in New York State, pot has been legal for the past couple of years, and I know that it's a lot less frowned upon um, now than it was even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. Um, but people glorify drinking so much, and you're so like unordinary if you don't drink. It's like, come on, bro, just have a drink. Come on, bro, just have a shot with me. Like almost every single circumstance that you're in life, you're surrounded by drinks, whether it's a family gathering, whether it's a barbecue, whether it's a restaurant or a bar, there's always alcohol around. And that's completely okay. Even if people are slamming beers and then getting in their car afterwards. But up until the past few years where pot has been legalized in New York State, you can go to a party and people aren't just smoking pot. Like you go to a bar or a restaurant and people aren't smoking pot. So alcohol is so widely accepted that you're an outcast if you don't drink. You're an outcast if you're sober. But marijuana, smoking pot, doing edibles is only just recently gotten so popular that like people aren't necessarily like turning their nose up at you when you say like, oh, I smoke pot, or when you pull out a joint. So I think that's part of the reason.
That's a very good point. I would say I can relate definitely on the drinking side of things because I don't drink at all. Yeah, maybe I might have like one or two glasses a year. And yeah, it's just I can definitely relate where people are just like very much find a need to enforce others to do it as well for some reason. Almost like I don't know if it's just to make themselves feel better about it. I have no idea, but I
I
can
think it's
definitely
because
I can relate.
a lot of people have a hard time socializing and being personable without alcohol in their system, that they have a hard time understanding that not everybody, or that there are people out there who don't need alcohol to socialize. You know what I mean? Like I can still be fun without alcohol, but some people can't. And they know that about themselves and they have a hard time understanding that there's people out there who can be fun without alcohol. You can be a fun person to be around when you're sober, but it's almost as if we're conditioned to think that like you aren't fun if you're not partying. And it's like, well, I'm good. You can either choose to be around me because of who I am as a person and because you enjoy my presence when I'm sober, or not. Like, that's cool. I'll go hang out with my wife and take my dogs for a walk. Have fun.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the not drinking alcohol movement, if that's what you want to call it, is definitely increasing and growing in strength over the past few years. Judging from
Agreed.
what I'm seeing, it's almost like it's like the new I don't smoke movement when smoking was really popular and then you just suddenly saw like a lot less people smoking. I feel like I'm getting that vibe about alcohol now. And I heard like from loads of polls, like the newer generation coming through, a lot of them just don't drink alcohol. But then you could argue that they're vaping like crazy, so there's that.
Of
But
course.
yeah, alcohol
A lot of
definitely.
us have, we all have a vice, right? Like my vice is fitness. I train for 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. Like I have a vice, you know what I mean? Like I traded pot for even more fitness. So like some people would probably argue that like my obsession of fitness is a little excessive. However, I would argue back that it's not hurting me, as opposed to like if I was smoking pot or drinking, like I'm not hurting myself by working out more than I used to.
Hmm. Was there anything else you wanted to say before I go on to the next post?
Nah,
Okay. I film myself in the gym often, and people always end up in the background or walking into my shot. Here's how I handle it. If I'm setting up my camera and notice someone will be in my shot, I go up to them and tell them I'm filming and ask them if they would prefer that I keep them out the video. Or number two, if someone walks into my video while I'm in the middle of a set, I delete the video because they have a right to be in the gym without being filmed by a stranger. Common courtesy isn't hard. Common courtesy.
yeah, man. Listen, I used to own my own gym, so I had the ability to film myself whenever I wanted. That was a luxury. Now that I go to a public gym, I just respect people's privacy and understand that they might not want to be on film. It's also, I think, easy for me to say because even though I put myself out there on social media every day, multiple times a day, I don't like being in a video if I'm not the intended subject. Like, I don't like being on camera if I'm not the intended subject. I don't like being filmed if I'm not the intended subject. For example, My wife and I, every year, we go to this Apple Festival every fall. It's a very good time, but there's always a drone flying around, taking pictures. And like, I don't like that. We were at the beach in Florida a couple weeks ago and somebody was flying a drone around. Like, I don't like that. Like, I want to be able to go in public and not worry about like a picture of me being on the internet that I don't know about. Here's one. Um, I was My wife and I went to Florida for 3 weeks because we both work remote. So we spent some time in Florida, and I got a gym membership at a Gold's Gym out there, and it was the worst gym I've ever been to in my life for
Wow.
many reasons. Yeah, it was pretty bad. The last day I was there, second to last day I was there, I guess, which is irrelevant. So gyms have obviously like the equipment space and all that, like the open gym area where you can walk around and do your thing. And then some places don't have separate rooms for group classes to be going on. So they may have a space off to the side where there's a group class happening. There was a group class happening off this in the main room, but off to the side. There was like 10 people in it. And it looked like they had a photographer there taking pictures of the group class. And I assume it's obviously for website purposes and marketing purposes. That's fine. She's following the class around, taking pictures. Cool. Well, then I go over into a separate area where the pull up bar is, and I start doing weighted pull ups. And I look over, and this photographer is literally on one knee taking pictures of me as I'm doing pull ups. And I'm like, if I had to guess, when I signed the waiver to go to the gym, I probably signed something saying that like any media content that is filmed in the gym, Gold's Gym has the right to. So I probably can't say anything, but that doesn't mean that it's uncomfortable and awkward for me to just have my headphones in, be cranking away at a workout, and have some random person like lining up a shot on one knee, taking pictures of me in the middle of my workout, doing 70-pound weighted pull-ups. Like, probably isn't the most flattering picture. And I would like to be consulted about that. And to be honest, every time, actually at that same exact gym, I was making a post. I made a post at that gym, or I filmed a video in that gym of croc row, a single arm dumbbell croc row. And there was a guy on the bench. I used the first bench in the row, and there was a guy using the bench next to me. And I waited until I could tell he was walking around during his sets, or during his rest. So when he walked away, that's when I filmed it. But before I set up my camera, I said, "Hey, do you mind, like, when you're not doing your reps, do you mind if I film a quick like clip for a video?" I was just filming some B-roll. And he's like, "Nah, dude, I don't care." He goes, "I appreciate you asking me." He goes, "But I have no issue." He goes, "That's the world we live in today. If people want to film, that's fine. I have no issue." Most people, that's their reaction. If I go up to them and say, "Hey, I'm going to film some B-roll, I'm going to film this, I'm not going to post it publicly," they're like, "Oh, that's fine." And they appreciate you asking so much. People really appreciate asking for their consent to be in the background of a video. And even if they say yes, it's still nice to ask. But some people don't want to be. And I have a rather large following, especially relative to my past. So I just think it's polite for me to ask if this person wants to be in a public video when I'm going to post it to hundreds of thousands of followers. It's common courtesy, and I don't think it's that difficult.
Yeah, well said. I think that is definitely an interesting situation that you were in that gym in Florida. I can't say I've ever heard that happening before. Did
Same.
you say anything?
Nah, I didn't say
Okay,
anything.
fair enough.
I really don't like confrontation. I feel like I would have felt more awkward saying something to her than I would have like being than I was with the picture being taken. Because again, like I said, I put myself out there all the time. So I'm not. I get over it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I actually would probably just. I would like a copy of the photo. Like, I'm doing 80-pound weighted pull-ups, and if you have a professional camera taking photos of me, I don't get that opportunity all the time. So like, I really should have just asked her for hey, email me that photo so I can use it too. You know what I mean?
Do you think maybe you can still find it somewhere?
I I will look on their website and like on the gym's page to see if they
Yeah.
have it available.
Next post. So demonizing store-bought bread because of preservatives and telling people they need to eat fresh bread all the time might be the most unhinged nutrition take out there. Is fresh bread delicious? Absolutely. Is it practical all the time? Absolutely not. We make fresh bread somewhat regularly, and one thing is for sure every time it's going to be hard as a rock in 76 seconds. People buy bread at the store with preservatives, so it lasts longer than 2 days.
Yeah, man, I was stirring the pot with that one a little bit.
I agree.
Um, I mean, I believe in it, but I believe what I said. I said it because it's true. I stand by what I said. Did I have to make that post? I don't know. What made me make that post? I probably saw somebody talking about preservatives being harmful and having no use. And I do actually, now that I'm talking about, I think somebody said you should be only eating homemade fresh bread. And I'm like, how unpractical and insane is that to say? It just is wild to me. Like I said, we have a bread maker. My wife makes delicious bread, all different kinds. But we also have jobs and like we have a life. We can't just be cranking out bread all the time without it going to waste.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I don't know if I want to say live on a bit of a pedestal, maybe some do, but I think there's a lot of people who they think when it comes to like say healthy eating that they have to eat only organic food, only food that you make yourself, only I don't know.
Yeah,
And they're what they believe is healthy eating is almost very skewed just because of a lot of shit information online, in which they think, and this is why people just end up doing nothing at all because they think, I can't eat to what this is an arbitrary standard of healthy, and then just yeah, they don't try anything at all. Whereas
of
it's like,
course.
no, that's not the case. And I know people like that. I meet people like that where they'll say, "Why are you eating this bread? It's shit." And I'm just, it's just like baffling when you really like sit down and really think about what, think about it.
Of course. And I'm actually going to battle right now on Facebook in my comments because of this exact reason where people think that like you should only eat organic foods and you shouldn't eat foods with preservatives in it. And I'm like, that is such a privileged point of view. And if you can afford to only eat organic fruits and vegetables, good for you. And I'm not like doubting that somebody didn't work hard for their money to be able to afford these types of things, but it's a really privileged thing to say. And it also does more harm than good because if you tell somebody that if you're eating conventional non organic foods, then they're unhealthy and you should only be eating organic foods, they're going to say, okay, why should I eat non-organic vegetables when I can just go buy cookies? If non-organic food is bad for me and I don't like the taste of it, why not just go eat something that's bad for me that I do like the taste of? It's not making anything better.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Your
It's like,
overall diet is what matters, not a single food ingredient, not a preservative.
yeah, it's as you said, and oftentimes people are just busy, man. Like people have full-time jobs where they're working absurd hours. Sometimes they have two kids that they need to provide for. Maybe someone you might have a single mom who has two kids and they have to work two jobs. And it's like, do you really think this person has the time to be making bread at home? And if not, they're not healthy and they're not looking after themselves. And they're like, it's wild when you really sit down and think about it. But like you said, if you can make bread at home, which my grandma does sometimes, she's retired.
Of course.
She has lots of time and the bread is great. Like, yeah, that's amazing. But like, don't stand on a pedestal and be telling others it's just, yeah, crap information.
Yeah. Listen, I sleep 8 hours a night. I train for 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. I eat 600 grams of fruits a day, 600 grams of vegetables a day. I'm pushing 40 grams of fiber. Um, I have a healthy heart rate. I go to see my primary care physician once a year, and my labs are all good. If you have the nerve to tell me
You must
that
poop gold.
eating, I pretty close. I mean, but if you have the nerve to tell me that just because I eat bread with preservatives in it once in a while, or if I eat non-organic food that makes me unhealthy at the snap, then like you're sadly mistaken. Your overall diet and overall lifestyle matters much more than a single ingredient. And if anything, we are lucky to have the preservatives and the science of food that we do because it prevents food waste. It allows people who don't otherwise have access to healthy food options to still get their nutrients in and to still fill their bellies when they're in a difficult and stressful life and need all the help that they can get.
Yeah, 100%. Anything else you wanted to say before I go on to the last one?
That's it.
Okay, this one's a bit long, but let's go. There is no better community setting than the gym. You can't go to any other public place and see people engaging in positive conversations, encouraging each other and supporting one another. Strangers turn to friends. That doesn't happen anywhere else, not the grocery store, not the coffee shop, and not even at a bar. If you want to be a loner, I respect it. But if you want to be part of an uplifting community, go to the gym. At the gym today, there was a guy on the cable machine when I needed to use it. I was in a little bit of a hurry, so I asked him if I could work my sets in when he was resting. He didn't hesitate to say yes. So the two of us went out to knock out set after set, resulting in us going from complete strangers to gym bros in 5 minutes. We finished our sets, gave each other a dap, and moved on. See how easy that was? The gym is a community of like-minded and supportive people.
Yeah, man. And actually, now that I see every time I see that guy, we give each other a head nod or we give each other a handshake. Still don't know his name, but I have built a gym bro just out of a simple interaction at the gym. And I think another amazing thing about the gym and frankly, any type of fitness, whether that be CrossFit, whether that be Zumba, whether that be yoga, is if you travel pretty much anywhere in the world, if you go to that facility, you can engage with like-minded people. Like if you take yoga classes at your hometown, you're going away for a week, you can go on vacation and do a drop in at a yoga studio and be surrounded by people who have the same interest as you. When I went to Florida, we were there for 3 weeks. I got a 3 week membership and I bumped into a couple of cool people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. It's a really, amazing community of supportive people when you think about it. And I know that sometimes the gym can be intimidating and it may get a bad rap for people feeling uncomfortable and maybe not feeling supported. But I think once you realize that people aren't necessarily being unsupportive or mean, they're just so caught up in their own thing at the moment and they're not even thinking about you. You know what I mean? Like, no one's, this dude just like drove a truck. He's a truck driver and he drove, you know, 9 hours back and forth on his route. And now he's just trying to get a 60-minute gym workout in to maintain his health and feel a little bit better. And so if his head is down and he's not like cheering you on, it doesn't mean that he's a bad person or unsupportive. Um, and it may make you feel uncomfortable, but it's not a personal attack on you. You know what I mean? Like there's a woman in there who's a single mom and has X amount of time to get in and out of the gym to get her workout in and relieve some stress and, improve her health. And so she's just bopping around between machine and machine and may not like make eye contact with you. It doesn't mean that she's not supportive, but if you give it time and you're patient and you go at the same time every day, you're going to start to see some familiar faces. You're going to have these natural interactions that allow you to build relationships. And it's kind of funny because you'll build relationships with people and you'll have, quick conversations with them. And even if it's a, hey, how you doing? That type of thing, you'll end up knowing these people and their routine without even really knowing their name. And it's just kind of a funny environment that I think more people could stand to get involved in, not just for the obvious health benefits of regular exercise.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, there's a lot of reasons why maybe people were a bit hesitant to go to the gym. I think one, which I could be wrong, but I don't feel like I am. I feel like this has slowly like phased out without a lot of people realizing it. Is like gym fail videos used to be really big in like the 2010s. especially like in the late 2010s, like 17, 18, 19, maybe 2020, 2021, like you would see like a lot of gym fail videos online on like Instagram. And I feel like I don't know what's happened, or maybe it's just my social media algorithm. I feel like you see that so much less now. Um, why? Maybe people, I think, just realize that it probably, I don't know, but I do feel like it used to put people off going to the gym. And funnily enough, I feel like, again, it could just be my experience, and there's nothing really, nothing to it, but I feel like a lot of people who used to like laugh at those videos and send it to me are people who were hesitant to go to the gym.
Mm,
Um, I
that's
I
a good connection.
I remember noticing that.
You want to hear a funny story?
Go on.
I have actually been in multiple fail gym fail videos, and I've actually gotten paid for them.
Oh,
A company called Failed Army. They had a huge YouTube following. I was actually on television. A station out here called True TV had a gym fail show, and I was actually on it. Um, I got paid $500 two different times for a video of me failing, once at the gym and once in my backyard when I was first getting into handstands. Um, the power tower for like knee tucks.
I
Um,
I've
anybody, so it's probably called different. It's called
yeah.
a chair. I think people call it a chair as
Okay,
well.
okay. Yeah.
But you basically uh, you put your forearms on the pads and then your feet are hanging.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
rest
yeah.
you rest your back for anybody that doesn't know. Um, there's a backrest and arm rests, and you lean your back against the backrest and you put your forearms into the arm rests, and your feet are dangling, and you can do knee tucks and leg raises. It's like a core exercise. Well, gyms don't typically have places for you to do handstands. So once I got good at handstands on the floor as a calisthenics athlete, the next thing was to find something that you could use that would mimic parallel bars. I don't know if you know what parallettes are. If you have a set of parallettes, they're basically just like the kind of like half shaped bars that you almost like push-up bars or like big push-up bars that are like a foot off the ground. You can do L sits on them. You can do push-ups, like hands elevated push-ups on them. Um, it's a lot more common for gyms to have those nowadays, but 10, 15 years ago, gyms didn't have those. So I was using the power tower or the chair to do a handstand. And I swung up into a handstand and immediately, like, my arms buckled and I fell into the backrest and tipped over completely. My legs were sticking up in the air and I fell over completely. And couple months I posted it on YouTube because I really had no shame in my failures. I'm actually proud of my failures because they made me who I am, and that's how I got better. But a couple months after that, a company called Failed Army reached out to me and asked if they could license my video and pay me money for it and put it on their compilation. And I said yes. And then I had another video where I was trying to do a handstand on an outdoor patio chair in my parents' backyard, and the chair swiveled side to side. And I went up into a handstand. The chair twisted. I fell out of the handstand, landed on the ground on my feet, but fell into my parents' pool, and the chair came in after me. It was wild, totally crazy. Like, my parents must have been losing their mind with all the crazy shit that I was doing. And they Failed Army got that video too, and they reached out to me and paid me $500 again. And I remember my mom was like, "You're not going to go and start doing dumb things now just to get paid, are you?" And I was like, "No, I old me would have when I was 15. Yeah, I would have been out there running around with my friends following me with a camera, jumping off buildings and stuff just to see what kind of footage we could capture." But so yeah, I have been in that culture getting paid for those types of videos. And I would agree with you that I think they're not as popular anymore. I think that fad has died out. And, I used to like that kind of stuff. I never really watched it regularly, but I would get a
Same.
kick out of it. But
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it at all anymore. Like, I kind of cringe. It's like some
Same.
serious injuries. It's hard to watch. Like,
Yeah.
there's some things it's not entertaining to me. And to be completely frank, I think that most people I know don't find that stuff entertaining anymore either.
Yeah, same. I think you explained it pretty well. Those fail videos sound like they're yeah, quite when it's you laughing at yourself, like, oh yeah, it's different, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
agreed.
yeah, for sure.
I
And
don't like seeing other people get hurt. It's not fun to me. I don't
no,
get
neither
enjoyment
am
out of
I.
that.
And
Yeah,
I've never liked that. Even when I was younger,
nah.
and I find people who just laugh at that, always I find it a bit odd. And a lot of people do, which is also odd to me. Yeah,
Yeah,
odd
laughing
for
at
me.
other people's pain is a weird character trait.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But it's nice you got paid a grand for it. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Patrick, this was a really fun podcast episode. It's been almost an hour. So yeah, time flies when you're having a good conversation over Fred's posts, I should say. So yeah, that was fun. Where was there anything else that you wanted to maybe mention from throughout this entire podcast episode that we didn't touch
Nah,
upon?
I really didn't know what direction you were going to take this, but I think this was really fun. I enjoyed touching on those topics that I've mentioned in the past, and I kind of didn't realize I have some pretty good threads posts.
You
Obviously
do.
it's a numbers game, so there's probably some shots that I took on goal that weren't so good, but I it kind of gave me some confidence in my posting. So I like the topics that you chose. I you know didn't really plan to have anything to say, but I kind of just real quick want to echo some things that you say a lot that are important to me. As fitness professionals, we know the importance and the benefits of regular exercise and taking care of your body and eating well and using food as fuel, but also understanding that like food is comfort at the same time. And I mentioned it real quickly that it's not one ingredient, it's your overall diet. And um I just, no matter how much you hear people like us say that it's okay to have this food that people deem as bad once in a while, we still do, support and encourage people to eat what the majority of people would say a healthy diet. You know what I mean? Like we like fruits and vegetables, we like lean proteins and whole grains and, you know, these healthy foods, but it's also not realistic for people to eat single ingredient foods and organic foods and foods with no preservatives. So just know that don't miss the forest for the trees. And when you're looking for these fitness plans and these great diets, that there's some nuance in there, and it's okay to not have the perfect diet or the perfect nutrition plan. Just prioritize fruits, vegetables, low fat dairy, lean protein, exercise regularly with a combination of strength training and cardio, and treat your body right and it will treat you right. I'm about to be 40, and anecdotally I can tell you that it's it's a fact. If you treat your body right, it will treat you well in return. And if I can do it, so can you. So thank you, Leo, for having me and doing such a great job leading this podcast and picking some really good topics to talk about and having a good discussion. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time out to come on. Yeah, I appreciate the lovely words. Where can people find you? And I'll put these links in the show notes of the podcast episode as well.
Cool. I think probably the best place would be Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. I like to show, my personal life through my stories, and I like to share educational content on my feed. My handle is at Patrick DiBello Fitness. And then my website as well. You've inspired me to kind of keep my blog article game going. So I try to write somewhat regularly on my blog, and I'm getting better at it. The more you write, the more you improve. So www.syracusefitnesscenter.com. And those are probably the two best places. And there's no need to kind of overflow with all of my platforms. Those are where I think I put out my best work for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As I said, I'll put those links in the show notes of this podcast episode. And again, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on and take care, and I'll see you around.
Absolutely, Leo. Thank you.